What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video, we're going to go through memory lane. We're going to compare OG Warzone Verdansk days, day one, or the first couple months of Warzone. And we're going to compare it to modern day Warzone, Warzone 3, Urzikstan, whatever you want to call it. We're going to go through all sorts of changes, things that are good and that made the game better overall, and things that are probably not so good that we probably wish was better, but it kind of is what it is. If you like this video, please give it a like and hit the sub. I would highly appreciate it. It helps the channel grow. Now let's get into it. While you watch this video, you're going to see some of these old clips. You're going to see my old setup, how I used to look a couple years ago, peak Warzone, peak COVID 2020. I was a little bit skinnier and the game was a little bit different. All right, let's talk about loadouts. Loadouts overall are generally the same in how they work. You get into the game, you make a pre-dedicated class that has either the meta guns or a fun class, but most of the time it definitely has at least a one meta gun or a one meta loadout, with meta attachments to make it have the least amount of recoil and that does the most amount of damage. What's different now is kind of how they work. Back in the day, OG Warzone, Verdansk, you had to get 10 grand, didn't matter if you were playing solos or quads. You had to get 10 grand, call it in for the team, and then everybody can take a look at it. Now, what you can do is you can get the loadout, but it may cost a little bit different depending on what you're playing. If you're playing quads, it can cost 15 grand. Trios is about 12.50. Duos is somewhere in between, and I believe solos is less than 10 grand. Duos actually might be 10 grand. I actually don't remember. So depending on how many people are actually on your squad, the price for the loadout is going to be different, which is kind of nice. I appreciate that, because in case you were to load into trios or quads and then one or two people accidentally leave, sometimes getting to 10 grand as a duo would be a little difficult. So at least they make it a little bit easier. When you go to grab your loadout, right now you can have two guns automatically, or two main guns automatically. So we're talking about like an AR and a submachine gun. Back in the Verdansk days, you had to run overkill in order to get both guns in the first loadout drop. Then you had to wait for the second loadout, which is usually the first free loadout, or you happen to have enough money to buy two loadouts at the same time. And then you would grab your second set of perks. Usually was Ghost. In the Verdansk days, the typical flow of the game was land, get enough money for the first loadout, grab your overkill class, and then wait for that Ghost class on the second loadout. But now you can actually just have all of that almost at once. Overkill is not in Warzone 3 or Urzikstan, so all you have to do is put your two main guns on that first loadout, and then you could use whatever perks you want. There were 3 perk slots allowed in Verdansk instead of 4 like it is now. The perks you were able to choose from was Double Time, Combat Scout, Battle Hardened, Amped, Shrapnel, Irradiated, Ghost, EOD, Scavenger, Mechanic, Tracker, Sleight of Hand, Tempered, High Alert, Spotter, Quick Fix, and Overkill. Typically on your first loadout drop, you would grab something like Double Time, Overkill, and possibly High Alert or Spotter. And then on your second loadout, the first and third perks were likely the same. The only thing that changed was Overkill to Ghost. In the Verdansk days, the second loadout was incredibly important. Nowadays, you don't even need a second loadout. The second loadout is kind of just there for insurance purposes only. One of my favorite changes to Warzone from Verdansk to now Urzikstan is the fact that the perks were not lost if you had died with them. So back in the Verdansk days, when you got that first or second loadout and you were probably using Ghost on your second loadout, because almost everybody ran Ghost to avoid being seen on UAVs, if you was to die, well, you could go get your guns back. That was very possible, but you would not get your perks. Your perks were gone forever. You could never get it back again unless you was to grab a second loadout or a third loadout if it was available to you. Now in Urzikstan, if you was to die with your loadout, you can still get your guns back just like an OG, but now you can actually grab your perks. I'm not sure when they added this, but I'm glad that they added this, because now it feels like you don't always need to rely on your loadout or getting another loadout to make sure you have all your perks. You just can just grab it, go to where you died before, or hopefully that team that killed you isn't still there, pick them up, and now you're back at it. You're back at 100% instead of not having your perks back in the OG days. Let's talk about loadout guns. This is probably one of the most annoying things, but the most sought after part of Warzone, especially as far as content. If you were not running the meta loadout, you probably were not having the greatest of times. The big key meta loadouts, and I'm sure this is going to bring back some memories and hopefully a good way, and definitely some in a bad way, was the M4, the Growl, the Kilo, AMAX, which is a personal favorite, probably favorite amongst most Warzone players, the dreaded DMR, the FFAR, MP5, which was probably one of the best submachine guns for main meta loadouts, the dreaded Doof Doof, We all know what that is. Mac 10, and there's a bunch of others that I don't exactly remember. And after that, eventually, I had switched to Apex anyway. Almost everyone at one point was running these loadouts at one point or another. If you was to wipe 3 teams, I would say 90% of those 3 teams had at least some variation of these meta loadouts when they were in their respective primes. Snipers were also really fun to use. Snipers in Verdansk had no damage fall off range, so a headshot at 10 meters did the same thing at 1,000. One-shot headshots were amazing, and I miss them. Originally, the HDR was the king until the Kar 98 was released and discovered. The Kar had the speed that the HDR did not, but it was able to hit just like it. I'm sure we've all seen crazy Kar 98 clips from Resurgence or even on Big Map Verdansk. There's probably no way that you haven't at this point. It's been out for so long. Today, snipers have damage fall off, so if you've seen any recent sniper clips of mine or have been in any past live streams of mine, a deep headshot or a far headshot would not instantly knock. It would at most just break shields, which kind of sucks. I wish they would bring back one-shot headshots at any range, but unfortunately they will not. And on top of that, the Warzone competitive scene would probably cry about it. So who actually knows if it'll actually make a return or not? I know that the Kar 98K is rumored to return. However, it's not going to feel the same if you can't one shot at any distance. So we'll see how that goes. In these clips, I'm sure you've seen that, damn, the skill gap is different, and damn well it is different. Back in Verdansk days, listen, the game was just fresh, COVID 2020. If you wasn't a hardcore gamer, you suddenly became one because you probably had nothing else better to do. Everybody wasn't working. If you wasn't working because maybe you was in school, in high school or whatever, hey, well, guess what? You didn't have to go to high school for a little bit, so guess what you was able to do? Play Warzone. Warzone has now been out for 4 years now, so people have gotten a lot better, and the competitive scene overall has grown. People are now winning big money in big money tournaments, and we're talking about millions at this point. And if you can't get into those, you could be a wager kid and earn money that way in 2v2s or in different variations of those wagers. Top Warzone earners, like I said, have earned over $1 million per person. If you was to look at Warzone earnings, a lot of the top of the leaderboard has earned either over $1 million or close to it. We're talking about earning serious cash from just playing a game. So people, of course, want to do that for themselves. They know that they have to get better. They know they have to be able to 1v4 or efficiently like every single time and drop 30, 40, 50 kill games, or at least try to. So kind of makes the game a little bit more sweatier. Raises the skill floor. On top of the fact that, like I said before, Warzone has been out for 4 years now. Overall, the skill floor has generally increased. In general, the longer somebody has to do a skill, or in this case, play a game, eventually through time and practice, you will get better. So after 4 years, people have generally got better. There are still some of those bots out there, but I would definitely, and it's definitely safe to say, and I'm sure many people agree, that the skill floor has definitely increased from what it was 4 years ago. These clips alone from back then can definitely improve it. I mean, I even look like a bot. Let's talk about the flow of the game. The flow of the game, in my opinion, is very slow. Verdansk, even though it was big, it had a good flow to the game. You could buy UAVs all day and find out where the players are running around, and you can go after it. Now in Urzikstan, it feels like there just isn't enough people to go around. Granted, the map is bigger, and if you're really sweating it out, like jumping in cars, using zip lines to move around the map quickly and efficiently, you can rack up a good amount of kills. But if you aren't doing that, sometimes it's hard to just find the players. An increase in player count to maybe 125 would help a bit, I think. But I'm not a developer, so truly at the end of the day, it's just an opinion. But the map does feel slower. The map count has been the same for 4 years, but the map itself has become way bigger. Something needs to change. Let's talk about vehicles. Cars, I mean, they're generally the same. Some of them are different, and there's some new ones. Cars that have armor, cars that can go into water and still drive. There's also boats. Back in the Verdansk days, there was only the quad, Big Bertha, and the 4-door G-Wagon looking thing. That was it. There are many more options now. Helicopters have also overall changed. The Little Bird was very, very good back in Verdansk, and in Urzikstan, there's only bigger helicopters, plus the heavy chop, which is incredibly difficult to take down. On top of the fact, all these vehicles, helicopters, cars, they all take gas, like actual gas. Back in the OG days, you could just run your car or chopper until the wheels fell off or until you got shot out the sky, bro. There was no stopping at a gas station or finding gas cans and having to fill up to keep it going. Number 5 on my list is zip lines or zip throwers. I don't really know what to call them. I'm gonna call them zip lines. Zip lines back in the day did not exist in Verdansk in any form. Ones that go from building to building, ones that go from the bottom of the building to the top, and the ones that throw you across the map. those originally did not exist at all. Eventually they added zip lines or some type of zip line type mechanic to the side of big buildings because people were camping the elevators a little bit too much. So they used the zip lines to remedy that situation. However, you were attached to that zip line. So if you was unlucky to get caught on the zip line, you were pretty much dead to rights. There was no way out of it. Zip lines didn't exist from building to building. In some parts of Old Town, they exist in a way where they can go from building to building on top of the ones that are on the side of the buildings that you can actually jump off of now. And then you have the zip line throwers, or actually, I don't even know what to call them, but the ones that are floating in the sky that are just in the middle, not attached to anything, and you go all the way up and then they shoot you across the map. Those are really good. It's probably one of my favorite things that they added to the game. It is an incredible decision. I'm not sure where they got the inspiration from. It is likely from Apex Legends, if I had to throw my opinion in there, which had it for a while. But I know in Warzone 2, they had added it and it was a great decision. I'm not sure if they made any additional changes from when they first added it. I know originally it was like a balloon style and now it's like a zip line, but they are a great addition. You can even shoot them out. And if you're on it while you got shot out, well, that's a slow fall down. And there's nothing worse than you about to get on one of those zip throwers or zip lines, whatever, and it just decides to move on you, because they do move around on at times. Great addition. Didn't have it in Verdansk. Now they have it at Urzikstan. Great. I love it. I use them all the time. Equipment. Mostly the equipment is generally the same. You have your typical grenades, Simtexes, throwing knives, C4s, ride shields, and such. But there is some other differences from the Verdansk days to Urzikstan. There's that really annoying shock stick, breacher drones, incendiary nades, or it's called something else, drill charges, and a fun little throwing star, on top of battle rage, EMD grenades, and scatter mines. Originally, gas masks were really annoying. And when you had it in your inventory, you was happy that you had it because you was able to work around in the zone. However, if you were fighting at the edge of zone and your character model was going in and out of the gas mask animation was probably the most annoying thing to experience. You could be literally on a gunfight and your character would just do the animation to put on or to take off the gas mask, and it could literally ruin your fight and get you killed. It took so long for them to figure that out. I'm pretty sure it still had that issue in Warzone 2, but at least now in Warzone 3, when you pick it up, you just put it right on and it doesn't come off ever, which is great. That makes my life so much more easier. Other equipment includes things like the PRD, the little portable radar antenna, which is a really good addition because it's like having a local UAV. There's the Guardian, which is just really annoying. Munitions boxes and plate boxes originally didn't exist along with all those things I just mentioned, but they did eventually later into the game's life. Another cool fun fact about how ammo boxes work nowadays versus how they used to work back in the day. An ammunitions box back in the day used to be just to refill your ammunition and maybe your nades, but they wasn't used in the way that they was today. Now people carry ammunition boxes around in their backpack, which is another thing we're going to get into, so that they can restock on their lethals and smokes often. Smoke grenades were very rarely used in Verdansk. Now they're used heavily. Almost everybody's running smokes. Throwing knives eventually in Verdansk were used heavily, especially in Resurgence. Originally in the original Verdansk, it was flipped between grenades and Semtexes. But if somebody had an ammunitions box, it was literally just to refill ammo and maybe your lethals. Nobody ever really cared about refilling on whatever tactical equipment that they had. And I don't even remember what the main tactical equipment people used, to be totally honest. If it was smokes, people never used them like they do today. As I mentioned before, number 7, backpacks and the whole backpack system. Backpacks never existed in Verdansk. You had your maximum amount of ammo, which was about 210 AR, and you had about 150 SMG ammo with the max equipment of 2. And I'm talking like max equipment like lethals and tacticals. Yeah, 2 grenades and 2 smokes, let's just say. The whole backpack system we have now, I'm not sure where it originated from, or I'm not sure where the inspiration came from. You could say Apex, but you also could say other battle royales like maybe PUBG. The backpack system we have now allows you to hold extra plates, extra ammunition, extra lethals like grenades, more self-revives, gulag tokens, all sorts of things. Airstrikes, UAVs. I believe you can hold the redeploy flare in there also. The only version of a backpack that eventually came into Verdansk was the satchel. And all the satchel did was increase your plate count from, like, I believe 5 plates maximum you can have in reserves to then 8. There was nothing else you could use the satchel for. And then there was always that rumor, which I don't even know if it was fully true or not, but a lot of the community believed it, where if you did have a satchel, you lost some movement or some speed, something of the such. I do remember seeing that a lot on Twitter. I don't know if I fully believed it, but that's what a lot of people were saying. So gulag tokens and redeploy packs did not exist either, on top of the redeployment flare. So if you did not win your gulag, you had to be bought back. You only had one attempt at your gulag. So if you already had went to the gulag once that game, when you had died again, well, you were just fully dead at that point. Gulag tokens, like I said, did not exist. So there was no way you was making multiple attempts or multiple visits to the gulag. If your friends did not have the cash to bring you back, which was about 4,000, just a little bit more expensive than what it is now. If they didn't have the cash, you literally just sat there watching your friends play and was praying for a jailbreak, which also wasn't introduced until later in its lifespan. One of the final things that we're going to be talking about today is cheaters. Yes, the cheating situation. Has it really changed? Has it gotten better? I really don't know. Possibly. Ricochet was eventually added, but at this point, I had already left the Warzone scene. A lot of people on Twitter were claiming that things were better, but at the end of the day, cheaters are still around and they make their way everywhere. In OG Verdansk, pre-Ricochet, the cheating situation was bad. There would be multiple cheaters in lobbies with walls, aimbots, spin hacking, shooting for 100% accuracy across the map, sniping 100% accuracy across the map, getting in cars, quads, flying across the map and just flying back in, destroying people, going back up. It was a fun time. So has it really gotten better in the past 4 years? Well, truly, I'm not too sure. When I play Warzone now, I feel like it's not that bad. I feel like I'm not really running into them as often. And to be honest, maybe I've run into 5 since I started playing Warzone consistently again. So either Ricochet is doing a good job, or maybe they're just doing a better job at hiding the cheats. I'm really not too sure at the end of the day, but I remember back in OG Verdansk days, there was just some weekends we just felt like, yo, are these guys running a promotion discount sale or something on these hacks? Y'all getting the Christmas hacks, y'all getting Memorial Day hacks, like Memorial Day sales, Labor Day sales, Easter sales. I felt like just certain periods throughout the year, there was just those days where every lobby just had 1 or 2 and they were just flexing it hard. Sometimes they tried to do a good job of hiding it, but it was still a little bit obvious when they're tracking you through a wall. Like I said, at the end of the day, I don't know if the cheating situation has truly gotten any better. I would love to say and hope that it has, but I really don't know. At the end of the day, it could be worse in some regions versus the one I'm in. I don't know. It's just hard to tell. I can only go based on my experience, and right now I'm feeling like it's really not that bad. I don't know. So guys, if you like this video, if this video brought you down memory lane, please, like I said, leave a like, hit the sub. I'd really appreciate it, especially because I live stream on this channel all the time, so you can catch me live on the live tab on this channel. I hope to see you guys there. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.